Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. Why did I retire early? That's the name of the video that I wanted to do. So on the thumbnail and in the title of this video, you see that I said, why did I retire early? When in actuality, the title I wanted to do was a little longer, would have got less people to click on it, wouldn't have even fit where you could see it all without having to open up the video. I wanted to say, why did I retire early from a job I loved while at the top of my game? I might say that a couple of times for the people that log into this live after the beginning. And I appreciate the 15 or so people who were hanging out here before I even started. That's awesome. My goal is that this video lasts as long as the questions do. And Millennial Mike is going to be joining me after I do my intro here, which is the time that I cover a topic, giving you a chance to get your questions about real estate, financial independence, retiring early, parenting, relationships, and other things I shouldn't talk about into the questions. And I will answer every question that comes, even the ones that make me look stupid. So, challenge accepted. But why did I retire early from a job I loved while at the top of my game? That's the actual question I want to answer, because there are some people who are in a very similar position. You're at the top of your game, you love your job, you either can retire or you're working towards retirement, or it's an option, but maybe you won't pull the trigger. Matt, why did I retire early from a job I loved while at the top of my game? To get the context of that, I want to explain what I mean by, first, why I love my job, why I called myself at the top of my game, and what I consider retired early. So the first part is, why did I love my job? I've tried several different occupations. My first main goal with job was, other than pay the bills, was I tried to work towards a pension. I tried the Marine Corps. After 6 years, Desert Storm, the Marine Corps downsizes. So that career trajectory changed due to something outside of my control. I tried law enforcement, and after 8 years, the 2008 housing crash hit. And when there's a recession, law enforcement agencies and municipalities aren't taking in a lot of taxes, so there's not a lot of income. So a lot of police officers got laid off. Me and a lot of qualified officers were all laid off at the same time. Again, career change due to something outside of my control. I tried even with a company that had a union and a pension, Oak Harbor Freight Lines. I had started there, was on track to make about $115,000 that first year, worked for about 9 months, and then they went on strike. Because $115,000 a year, great benefits, and a retirement plan weren't enough for the morons running the union. Still haven't resolved that issue. And it's been over 13, 14 years now. Started working at the CDL school. Now, I had a martial arts studio when I lived in California. I raised 3 kids. So I've kind of got the idea of how to teach people. Didn't realize how much I enjoyed it until I got the job at the CDL school, taking people who, some had never seen a manual transmission before, some had never been in a vehicle that coupled to a trailer before, and then taking them within a 4-week period, 1 week classroom, 3 weeks in the field, and figuring out exactly what I could take that person through to take the years of knowledge of being a truck driver between the Marine Corps and law enforcement and put it into a format that they would retain. Almost every day to me was like pulling off a magic trick, showing somebody something they didn't think they could do, revealing it to them in such a way that they could reproduce it, getting them excited instead of nervous to learn the skill of driving a semi, so that then they can go and get a good local job, improve their life, make 2, 3, 4 times what they were making before. And I got to be a part of that. So that joy of teaching was there. And I probably would have stayed an instructor for longer, but apparently I'm pretty decent at talking to people. And I had a couple of ideas that grew the company. And those are several different ones. One was reverse the order of operations on leadership to where it was like an upside down tree, to where the management worked for the instructors worked for the clients. So like we were an upside down company. basically meaning that as you were promoted in the company, you were technically demoted down into the position you were filling, so that you had to be responsible for everybody above you in that chain. The other one was I founded a nonprofit called TPS. You can find information at hiddenjobs.org. The idea was we helped people find jobs in transportation companies that aren't driving, that don't need a CDL, that are never going to spend a penny at our company. HR, IT, operations, logistics, forklift, every position you can imagine exists in transportation. And most people, when they think of a trucking company, they think of the drivers. They don't realize that there are companies like Pepsi. Pepsi employs 151,000 more people than the entire state of Washington employs. But nobody's thinking of those jobs. So we called this the hidden job market. So part of my job was teaching people the skills to get a CDL, to get a great local job. The other part of my creative aspect of my job was creating a nonprofit to go on bases, in prisons, and into colleges and tell people about this hidden job market and for free help them find a non-driving job, not charge them a penny. Imagine the emotional feeling you get to be of meeting somebody, not gaining anything financial from them, but helping them with their life, getting a better job. The side benefit of this, the reason I did this and the reason why I grew the school was local companies generally don't hire out of CDL schools. Generally, you're supposed to get your CDL license, go over the road for 2 years where life sucks, you're gone all the time, you don't make a lot of money. After 2 years of experience, now you can get a job with a local company. But what our nonprofit did was it developed relationships and inroads with those local employers so that our school, our nonprofit, TPS, Transportation Placement Services, became a source of people. So then they started hiring our graduates right into local jobs. So our graduates didn't have to go over the road. So what happens when somebody thinks they're going to CDL school, thinks they're going to graduate and go to Swift, make $50,000 or $60,000 a year and be gone all the time, but they graduate our school, they go to a company like Old Dominion or McNeeley. They make 6 figures their first year. They drag 5 of their friends in kicking and screaming to get their CDL. So the school blew up and went from 6 staff with 1 location to 60 staff with 5 locations. So because of those ideas and me running the nonprofit, I was demoted all the way down to the president of the company. So at the top of my game, I learned how to teach. I learned how to teach instructors how to teach. I created a job where I got to benefit almost everyone I worked with in some way to better their life and got to have the emotional experience from that. Then let's look at the income. For the first 5 to 8 years at that company, I started at $17 an hour teaching people how to drive trucks. As I was slowly demoted down into the leadership and management of the company, I started to make a little bit more money. But for the first 5 years, I don't think I ever made more than $50,000. Between the 5th and 8 years, I made probably 60, maybe 65,000. And then in the last couple, 2021 and 2022, 2021, I was making 6 figures. And I think my best year, I hit 200,000. So I finally got in a position where I controlled my schedule. I got to benefit people in every way that I interacted with them. I was testifying to the higher ed committee, the transportation committee, impacting legislature that was going to impact transportation and higher education in our state. I became the president of the Northwest Career Colleges Federation, 112 vocational schools that came together as a federation. I was the president of that organization. I had pretty much achieved everything in the workplace that I thought I could and just started to make great money. Imagine if I didn't retire in 2022 and I kept working there. I kept making a couple $100,000 a year in a job that wasn't tearing up my body, where I had control of my schedule, where I really only answered to the owners of the company. I had nobody else in my chain of command. I could play World of Warcraft at my desk. As long as the company was functioning, I had the dream job I would design for myself. If I worked a couple of more years each year, I'd take that couple $100,000 since I didn't need it, since I'd reached financial freedom with real estate, and I'd be able to buy a whole nother rental, all cash, and just exponentially increase my generational wealth, my cash flow, my net worth. So why, July of 2022, at the top of my game, on a good day at work, in a job that I loved, did I hang up my hat? Literally, figured. Yeah, I don't wear hats that much, other than the teaching hats. So I hung up the hat because of a couple of reasons. The first is the math of time. Now, if you're familiar with my content, you've heard me explain the math of time as a way that I have in over a decade never had one late or missing rent payment because I use a conversation with the math of time with my tenants. But this math of time is, I can't teach you or help you to live longer. I have some of the worst eating and health habits ever. I only work out like 3 times a week. I eat junk food when I want to. I eat healthy food when I want to. I don't pay attention to that. I don't want to live longer. I think those years in the 80s or 90s are going to suck no matter how much money or what kind of health you're in. So I'm not too worried about that. What I want to do, instead of living longer, is I want to teach you how to live more. So let's look at me, my last year of work, versus me this last year. Now it's over 12 months of retirement. So that last year, just before I retired, I was working 50, 60 hours a week, generally more than 60, but let's just say I only worked 40. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt. I was super lazy, only worked 40. Never answered my call at 10 o'clock at night when an instructor was stuck in a truck. Never had an accident during backing training on a Saturday. Never had to deal with anything, and I just worked my 40 hours. And I had a commute, 30 minutes each way. So I lose 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I lose an hour commuting. I'm there for lunch. So on average, in a 24-hour day, if you take out the time that I sleep, the time that I work and commute, I would have, if I didn't work 60 hours a week like I did and only worked 40, about 5 hours a day that were mine. 5 hours exhausted from running a company, growing the nonprofit, helping people find jobs, developing relationships with managers and owners of other companies so that they would hire our students, a full life experience job. Let's benefit of the doubt, I'd have those 5 hours. The whole year, 5 hours a day, versus retired. No commute, no hour lunch spent at work, no 8 hours a day at work, no schedule. Not only is every day Saturday, but every night is Friday night. I have, if you take out sleep, exercise, cleaning the house, laundry, 15 hours a day that are mine every day. So 5 hours a day versus 15 hours a day. That last year working at the truck driving school, which is commercial driver school in Washington and Idaho, I'd have 5 hours a day that were mine. Versus this last year, 15 hours a day, which is actually more, it was actually less. I've lived 3 times as much in the last 12 months as I did the 12 months before that. The math of time said that every year that I continued to work, I was losing 3 times the amount of life that I could have. So that's the first thing, that the reason that I retired early. The second is you would be trading good years for years that are going to suck anyway. I went on a cruise last year, went on a cruise a month ago, heading to Thailand for a few months. But on those cruises, I saw some very clear examples of the people who worked hard, dedicated lives, 30, 40 years to retire on some kind of pension or with a retirement account and with some cash flow to go and take these trips with their walkers and their wheelchairs and their assistants so that they can get onto the ramp. Couldn't get off in the ports where we had to take the tenders because they couldn't go from one ship to the other. They'd have to go only when there was a ramp. Versus, I didn't start investing until I was 40. I was a single parent with 3 kids, started at the truck driving school making $17 an hour, found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know existed until the divorce. So I had until 40 to even start investing. So I retired at 52 last year. Could have at 8 years, 10 years comfortably, 12 years kind of felt stupid going to work when I talk about the third reason why I retired early. But in my 50s, in your 40s, in your 30s, because the average individual can reach financial freedom and make work completely optional in 10 years or less. So if you start when you're 20 versus when I was 40, you could do this decades sooner than I did. What I can do now at 52, I still do defensive tactic training with law enforcement. I still exercise at least 3 times a week. I can go and do anything. I can go rock climbing with my son. I can go on cruises and take all of the excursions and try to break a bone. I can walk up the steps of Santorini and watch the donkeys almost myrtleize the lead. Some people who were of an age to where they couldn't get out of the way of the mules as they were coming back down. I can do it and enjoy it because I don't want to trade the years that I could work in my 50s to get that extra couple $100,000 I was making in those last couple of years at that school and buy another to have more cash flow, to have a more generational wealth, to have a better in my 80s experience. I don't want to trade good years for years that are going to suck anyway. If you have $1 million in the bank or $7 million in the bank, when you're 85, your life's not much different. But if you have cash flow every month, that's 4 or 5 times what it takes you to live in your 50s or 40s. This is when you should retire. So then the other reason that I would retire early, that I did retire early last year, from a job I loved, while at the top of my game, because if you're familiar with one rental at a time, Michael Zuber was 46 years old, 6 months and 15 days. He went to work at 8 o'clock in the morning with the intent of continuing to work another 5 years. His plan was, I think, to retire around 50. But he had such a bad day and relationship with his manager that 45 minutes later, he was on his way home and he called his wife, Olivia, and said, hey, I'm retired now too. On a bad day, with a bad taste in his mouth, he quit a job that he enjoyed for decades. I was working at the CDL school, not only at the top of my game, in a job that I loved, but the school had a problem with an agency that took away a funding source. And it was 28% of the revenue of the company. And that's a large amount when you look at the overall profitability of what a company can do. You take away 28% of the revenue, that's a huge impact on both bottom and top line. So for about 3 months, I practiced up some new skills, learned some negotiating tactics, met with some attorneys, and actually made sure I understood the laws on what I could and couldn't do. Had several meetings with this agency and corrected an issue that the school had. At the end of the meeting, the agency, run by morons, who actually was working for months to stop the school from having this revenue source, by the end of the meeting, was fighting with me to ensure that the school got this revenue source and benefited the people that this source was paying for. That day, during that Zoom meeting, I asked the owners to hang out with me after that and said, hey, it's been great. I've appreciated the last 12 or 13 years working with them. I retired from a job I loved at the top of my game on probably the best day I'd had at that job, solving that kind of problem. Because of these things I'm talking about, the math of time, you're trading good years for bad years. Now add to this, in the average job that people have, not one like mine, where I was working 60 hours a week, where I was managing at least 60 people, where every week, every Monday, a new class was starting at one of our campuses, and it was my job as an overall manager of the company to make sure that there was enough companies hiring graduates, to make sure that there was enough graduates to keep the instructors working, and to make sure that there was enough profitability to make sure we can raise the instructor wage to where when I left, we started at $17 an hour. The average instructor wage when I left was like $25 an hour, to increase it as much as possible, but left from a job I loved. Would you leave a job that you loved? Are these things enough to convince you to think that there might be other things that you can do? Think of the health benefits, the amount of stress that has gone away that I didn't even know existed. Because I actually, for a long time, I said this in many videos at the beginning of my YouTube start. I like the financial independence, retire early community. I focus on the financial independence. I'm not sure I'm going to retire early. I might not even retire late. I actually said that for, I want to say 100 videos at least. Then I started saying, I might retire sometime between tomorrow and 3 years from now, because I knew it was on the horizon. And a little over a year ago, I made a video talking about my cash flow, where I broke down, if I looked at my cash flow, how much did I make per hour if I worked a 40-hour week? How much did I make per hour if I looked at it 24 hours a day? And I made the video as a little live stream. I re-released it about a week ago, and I'll pin that video in a comment below. But after making it, I sat down at work in front, because there's a whiteboard behind here, and I looked at the whiteboard and I was looking at the numbers and I was thinking, why am I at work? First off, it was a Sunday that I was working and finished working and then made the live stream. So the video was a contributing factor. The math of time was another. Health concerns, the amount of stress going away makes you, I don't know if I can put it into words. it's like you're living in an entirely new world where the things you cared about just don't matter. The mountain of stress that goes off your shoulders is very much worth, even if you don't retire early, make it to where you have the option. Because yeah, I had a job I loved and I was at the top of my game. But there are people like Michael Zuber who at some point you get a manager you can't stand. And changing companies would be just as stressful. The option to retire will encourage your employer to treat you better. Why do you think, just randomly, that the last couple of years at that truck driving school, I started making so much money? When they realized this guy's got like over a dozen rentals and we see his paychecks going, and I don't think he's touched one in a year. It's all just going into the savings account. They used to laugh. They actually said, you just like your checks going into a bank account so you could stare at the numbers. And I was like, yeah, I like to stare at those numbers. And then I like to move those numbers from a bank where it isn't doing anything for me into a rental property where it's doing a lot for me. So much so that the people who own the company, who I owe a huge thankful debt of gratitude, words are hard, debt of gratitude for the opportunity that they gave me. I also gave them a decade of my life to make sure that they made millions of dollars with their company that I grew for them while they were living in another state and never even had to come to work. So I think we had a mutually beneficial relationship to the point when I retired, to where I've had conversations with them where we're good friends. So this is not taken like, this is not an insult to me. They've said they're kind of jealous. Their income is still tied to a company that's making money, but it's a company that you have to run. My income is tied to sources of income that I don't have to sell my life for 1 hour at a time, a couple hours a month, to have the cash flow to where I can do anything I want. And the last thing I'll wrap up with here before my intro ends and Millennial Mike jumps into the video is 2 years ago. So it was, I think this was after COVID. When was this? Yeah, I think it's 2021. I went on a trip with my brothers. And it was a simple trip. We just jumped in a pickup, spent a month going all over the U.S. We went pretty much everywhere but the Northeast. There was some storms going on. Didn't get a chance to see Matt the Lumberjack Landlord, Statue of Liberty, Niagara Falls, like that area. But we saw the South, and then on the way back, we got to see like the Dakotas and all that. We did everything well. Me and my one brother, we took helicopter rides. We went into the Keys down in Florida. We went into these really cool mammoth caves, places I'd never heard of in the US that were really fun to visit. But I was with my one brother and we were talking. So I've got a brother who's retired early with rentals, and I've got a brother who's still working, running his own tree service. So he's an entrepreneur and he's a very hard worker, 10 times the worker I will ever be. I actually joined the Marine Corps because that was easier than tree work. But I was talking with my brother about this trip we were on, and so the subject of money came up. Now, he's an entrepreneur and he runs a business, but it's a small tree service business where he estimates a job. He goes, it's very honest work. You do the work. It's physical labor. You have to be conscious of safety, of arborist laws, all of the rules and regulations that go into that, LNI and everything, to finish a job and then get paid. So even though he's not a W-2 employee, he has the mindset of you work really hard, you work as smart as you can, not you work smarter, not harder, right? That's the idea. And you get paid. Well, I told him we're on this trip, and at the time, I think my cash flow was $14,000 a month, and my plan was to spend at least $3,000 on this trip across the country. Which, when you're just traveling in a pickup with your brothers, and you take turns paying for the hotels and food, and sometimes we just actually slept in the truck out in the middle of the Valley of the Gods in the middle of nowhere and ate MREs because that's what we do. You can have a lot of fun. It doesn't take a lot of money. We can also have a lot of fun. It takes money. But I was telling my brother, I'm coming back from this trip. Even if I hit my goal of at least spending $3,000 in this trip, I'm going to have $11,000 in my bank account that wasn't there when we left. And I don't think that ever registered with him. I don't think he understood that. My other brother with his rentals, he was like, yeah, we should take more trips. Because he and I have gone to Thailand, done everything you can spend money on, gone to Colombia, done everything we could spend, just spent a month and a half in Portugal. And when we come home, there's more money in our accounts than when we left. There are some people who say, I don't want to retire early because the thought of doing nothing is terrifying. And I hear that people retire and stare at the TV and drink beer and die within 2 years of retiring. Well, of course, if you're broke, don't do that. But if you have the money coming in that it takes for you to sit back and go, there is so much stuff I can do. I'm going to wonder how I ever had time to work. And even if I go do all of this expensive stuff I want to do, when I come back, my bank accounts are bigger. That's the person that should retire early. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me during that intro. The goal now is to answer questions. The live stream should last as long as the questions do. Again, my goal was 10 minutes. Here we are, 26. I see Amafid's name in the comments, so I wanted to take a second and say some. It's weird for somebody who's a Marine and law enforcement and just a mean person to say anything that is heartfelt, but this is something I want to say from my heart. In the last couple of months on social media, under his other name in social media, Amafid has shared several of my videos. Sometimes somebody asks a question, do I need an LLC? What is cash flow? What happens when, I have a bunch of expenses to my cash flow? Whatever the question is, he'll post a link to one of my videos. And then sometimes he just randomly posts a link to one of my videos, shorts or long videos. I want to say thank you. I was watching, I pay attention. The best compliment that you can give to somebody who makes content like this, who's taking their time and trying to share with you that it's possible to reach financial freedom, that you can do this. I want to say, Amafid, thank you very much. I have sent you a message through social media. You have won a 1-hour Zoom call. Let me know the time that works for you. We'll take a deep dive look into your situation, your portfolio, your goals, and we'll see if I can come up with some strategies and ideas for you. Thank you for that. Michael.
How's it going?
It's going great, man. Thanks for joining me on this Tuesday live stream to answer questions. I haven't even actually had a chance to look, so I'm hoping that when I do look down, I don't see your sound's not working for 10 minutes. But
I listened to the whole intro and it all came through perfectly fine for me.
Okay, good. I think I did that one time where I did like I have to sneeze button.
Nice.
And then talked for 5 minutes. So
nice.
What is going on in your world?
Well, you talked about why did you retire early? I'll give my perspective of why I want to retire early. I want to retire early for probably a lot of the same reasons that a lot of people get into real estate investing. It's because they want to reclaim some time freedom. You're famous for saying the math of time. You were talking about that a little bit earlier. Most people probably just want to reclaim some time. We're so busy doing so many different things. And unfortunately, with being more connected via phones and the internet and laptops, oftentimes you can't even get away from work. It just follows you home. So, my goal is hopefully before my son is 10 years old, he just turned 7. Before he's 10, I'll be retired and I get to coach as many soccer games as I want. We can take as many trips and vacations as I want. And I just get to spend more time with him and, hopefully have some more kids, which of course first means I have to commit. But if I can let me know if you can figure out a way to have the kid. I'm just kidding. All right, we're going to get in trouble. You said not to bring those topics up. My bad. But anyways, I want more time. I don't want to have to trade my time for a paycheck, as Dividend Dave was saying in the comment section at the beginning. And I think also most importantly that I think you didn't cover was how absolutely failing the current retirement system is. No matter how well you do at trading hours for dollars, at some point you will hit a point in your life where you can no longer work. You can't trade hours for dollars, whether you get sick, injured, family needs you. You cannot trade your hours for dollars. So what systems and processes do you have in place to supplement your income when you can't do it like that anymore? And conventional retirement accounts, trash. The stock market, in my opinion, trash. Banking on Social Security, trash. Your pension, I'm sorry, what happens when your company or your state or your city goes bankrupt? Trash. There's only one way that I know of, and that's consistent monthly cash flow generated from a business or from real estate.
The statistic that gets me is 48% of Americans in the United States between the age of 55 and 65 have zero saved for retirement.
Right.
So yes, I think retirement accounts are trash. I think if you can start and grow a business to where it gets big enough for somebody else to run the day-to-day, or if you can invest in a large enough stock portfolio. So to me, this only works for the people that are making multiple six figures, that have 20 years to invest, to put enough money to work in the stock market to where you can reach that buckets method of stability. Right? That Joe Kuhn does that. He actually has a really good buckets method. But in my mind, you're making great money and you have a long time to invest versus finding cash flowing assets. So it's not so much that there's only one way. It's that there's a one way for you, and most people aren't even looking for a way. They have the mentality, I will work for a company, and not even with a pension, not even with a 401k, and just work, and social security is going to take care of them. That's terrible.
Yeah, not smart at all.
So I see Bill is here. Howdy, Bill. Richard, howdy. Jason, hello, everybody. Going to have to watch this in Futureland. Going to go to my first in-person real estate investors group meeting at the same time as this. Hope it goes well. Speaking of in-person real estate meetups, howdy, Jason, in Futureland. Zuber from One Rental at a Time has an event going on in February 17th and 18th in Vegas. I'm going to be there for probably 1 or 2 weeks. I'm going to have to fly there from Thailand, so I don't think I'm going to fly, do 2 days, turn around and fly back. But I think some of us should get together at the event and then spend some time a couple days before, a couple days after, with some local meetups in Vegas, because one of the things I like the most about real estate meetups, whether it's our local Tacoma FI meetup group, which I think is happening next week here. I haven't looked at the calendar recently, but you never know what kind of side conversation is going to happen, where, Mike, you have a duplex you've been house hacking with long-term tenants for a couple of years. If you didn't go to the local Tacoma FI meetup and you didn't meet Matt, our local guy here that's worked in sales for years and has that mentality of here's how you market and run a short-term rental, you wouldn't have him as an asset to help you with your current, you're doing short-term now. I think it's a great thing. And you got that by going to a local in-person real estate meetup. It's awesome.
Yeah, I had my first guest at the Airbnb a couple days ago. I had my second guest last minute, last night, was able to squeeze him in. And I can see immediately why people want to go to a maid service very quickly. I'm going to be transitioning over very quickly because timing myself on what it takes to turn the unit, it's like 2 hours. 2 hours to strip all the beds, put all the new sheets on, put all the new blankets on, change the garbages, vacuum, sweep, restock the fridge and coffee and stuff that I keep in there. I mean, like it's time consuming. So I want a maid service to do that. And I hopefully am making enough money to do that very quickly.
There you go. Yeah, I'm a fan of whatever you can have somebody else do, especially, let's say you were called on a SWAT team and you were pulled away and you couldn't go and do the cleaning, you had a turnover, right? You start calling around, it's going to be kind of hard to find somebody last minute to come and do this. But if you have a service that you pay on easily, they know next Thursday, they know the following Tuesday, they're going to have to be there. And then you call them with, hey, we've had a switch change, you need to be there today. It's a lot easier to get somebody there. It's how I handle my handyman. There are some things I can do with the rentals. I have a dryer vent that's kind of loose in the wall. I can go and swap out a dryer vent, right? It'll take me 20 minutes, but I'm happily going to pay at least $100 to have a handyman go and do that because they're more available at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday when I'm in Portugal. Dividend Dave, howdy, you're here now, but not first. Just got off work, was trading my time for money like a sucker and being highly taxed. That sucks. Frank, howdy. Frank, you remind me that the members only group is going to be doing a deep dive looking at deals this Saturday. And the course is having anybody, there's been a few people that have signed up for the course recently in the last couple of weeks. All through the month of October, every Saturday, we're doing a 4 p.m. Pacific Zoom call that you get to jump in, look at deals, talk strategy, look at your situation. It's a lot more one-on-one like this. There's usually only 5-6 people that jump into that. And then those are recorded and put up into the course so that you have access to them later if you can't make it on a Saturday. I kind of took a couple of polls on YouTube to figure out what time worked best for everybody. And it seems like Saturday, 4 p.m. Pacific was the number. Wealth building journey, howdy. Looking forward to getting together and finding out what you've found out after your inspection. Basilio, howdy. My favorite live is starting in 22 minutes. So hello, past land. Dion, the man, the legend. I can't wait to meet you next year in Vegas. Me too. I'm looking forward to it. Buzz team. Howdy. I think you're, I'm hoping to meet you Saturday on the Zoom call. Michelle, howdy. Haven't seen you in a minute. First in about a month, was having withdrawals, but vacation didn't suck. Yeah, vacations don't tend to. Coming back from them does. When you have to. So let's get you to where you don't have to.
Michelle, just, update on the property Michelle's one of my private investors. She's partnered up with me on my next deal, the seller finance deal that I have been just struggling to close. So what happened with this one, Michelle, I think I'd already told you. I locked down the seller financing, came to an agreement with the owner. We go to the title portion. Title starts running the search on the property. The property had been co-signed onto the current owner from his mother when she was sick prior to her passing. Well, when she passed away, the property, he's controlling it, but he doesn't default own it without opening up probate and logging and recording the will with the county. So he never did that. Well, 6 years later, he says to himself, hey, I want to sell the property now. So he and I come to an agreement. We come to the terms. He sent it to the title company. Title company says he has to open up will and probate 6-7 years later. So we've been going through that process, which of course means now the will and probate attorney has to talk to the title attorney, has to talk to the person. We've been going around in a giant circle looking like a bunch of idiots, but we're finally almost there, finished everything. And hopefully we can close on the thing within the next 10 days. And I will have another project duplex ready to go. That's where we're at, Michelle.
Nice. And Michelle is I said it on Zuber's this video earlier today. She's this close. Financial freedom is right there. Last couple of steps.
She's going to pick up a check from me every month for the next 5 to 8 years.
On the current one, possibly more going forward too. I see a super chat from Dividend Dave. Got my ticket for the one rental at a time event. Awesome. Spent my plane ticket on this super chat. Well, you're going to Vegas. Just gamble. You'll make plenty of money to buy a plane for the trip home. That's how it works, right? No. All-nighter hider. Howdy, everyone. I'm barely alive after traveling back from Vegas all night, but I can hack it. Vegas to San Diego. It's a 8-hour drive, maybe. Depends on, hey, have you ever driven from LA to Vegas, Mike?
No.
It's like the Autobahn out there. 110, 120.
Okay, that would be fun, actually.
It is, and it's kind of whippy like this.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You really can't see the cops just sitting past the next little thing.
That's annoying.
It is, but they don't tend to mess with people unless you're really really stupid, because they kind of want the money to go be spent in Vegas. Jada, howdy. Good to see you here. Anna K, howdy. I don't know if you're going to make it next week or not, but it'd be cool to see you. Northwest Coat, Donnie, and Rainey, howdy. How was your day at work, Rainey? Hopefully it went well. Did you see my email I sent you on the 14th? I did not. So it must have hit spam or something. You have my, Rainey, you have my cell. Just text me. I miss emails once in a while. And if anybody else ever sends me an email to this email that I have usually shared, I've missed some. I have never missed one to this one. So if you need to email me, there's my email that I don't miss. But the other one, I get hundreds and hundreds of emails every day, because it's the one that I've used through all the BiggerPockets boot camps as their teaching assistant. And so there's a lot of student stuff there. So Rainey, I didn't. I will have to look it up. Hustle Nation, howdy. Anything you find surprising since being retired? I think I've talked a little bit about, I don't know if I've actually made a video on this yet. I wasn't surprised by every day is Saturday. I was surprised that the time of day doesn't matter. Right. When I worked, and I would think, okay, I usually generally wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning, but sometimes I'll have an early meeting. So I got to set the alarm at 4, and I got to get up a little bit earlier than normal. So that's kind of hard. Since retiring, I can wake up at 2 in the morning or 10 in the morning, because it doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. That was kind of shocking. It's like being outside of everything. Everybody has a time schedule. When restaurants are busy, days of week they do things, and it's like, oh, what do I want to do? Whatever. That's kind of shocking.
So Dion posted, I can't remember if you posted or you put it in the group chat, but you put a picture up of the amount of views your YouTube channel has gotten over the life of its channel. And it was like over 1 million views. So I was like, I wonder what I got. So at 8:42 p.m., I sent Dion a text with a screenshot showing that I had just crossed the million threshold mark on my channel as well. And I sent him that at 8:42 a.m. At 3:50 a.m., Dion responds with, "That's too awesome." Because time doesn't matter to him. He's not asleep at a regular hour. He's up in the middle of the night, but not at 8:40 in the evening.
So I've had people ask, when do you sleep? And I said, I don't really sleep, but I do take some nights. Sometimes I'll have a nap in the middle of the night. But mostly it's just not, because that's when the world is asleep and you can do anything you want. Like text everybody at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and forget. But it tended to work out while I was in Portugal or the Mediterranean, because I texted in the middle of the night and it was actually the right time of day here. Hustle Nation, when people retire, I think this will shock most people. The people that you work with, that you call your work family, your friends that you work with, aren't your family and aren't your friends. And unless you reach out, you will never hear from them again, no matter what you've done for them in the past. Don't let that shock you. They're still working. They still have to play the office politics of whatever makes the manager happy or keeps the client engaged, to where you don't matter, which is a good thing. You don't want to matter to them. You have a whole new world of people to matter to. I hope that helps. Laura, howdy. Good to see you here. Thank you very much for some of your comments recently. They were very cool. All-nighter hider, howdy. Kevin, again, thanks for doing this. Dion, you talk about the right amount of cash flow with the least amount of units. Why are you still buying rentals? Why are you not recasting or paying off existing loans? So recasting is something I've kind of thought about, and as long as it wouldn't mess with the interest rate, it's possible, because I don't care about having paid off properties. Last year when I had 16 rentals, I kind of thought, I actually said a few times, I might sell my paid off single family house, use that money to pay off a couple of mortgages, have less tenants to take care of, but actually increase the cash flow. Like, I've looked at this from several different angles, but here's the thing that really sucks about financial freedom. The slow, boring way. So not recycling capital, not refinancing, not pulling out money, not recasting, not 1031, not home equity line of credit. Just save a down payment, buy a property, save a down payment, buy a property. Use the binder strategy to get my tenants to ask me to raise the rent, make more money, have more money than I need to invest to live, right? Here's the problem I want you to have. And this is the problem I struggled with for the last 2 years. The money keeps piling up. When I crossed a couple $100,000 in the bank, I thought, oh, I can buy any car I want. And then I was hitting the $500,000 point, and I was like, what am I going to do with all this money? This sucks. Money's heavy, and it's at risk. I actually went and took money out of a bank and put it in two, so that I have, and I don't even want it to. I like having very few bank accounts to think about and credit cards to think about. I have one bank account usually, one credit card, but now I had two bank accounts because there was so much money in there. So I thought, I'll buy a place in Portugal, so I can travel overseas. This is kind of the mistake I think a lot of people do. I have a friend who wants to buy a property in Mexico so that he can go there, use it as his travel destination, and then Airbnb it when he's not there. And I think that's the mistake that I was going to make in Portugal. So not only did I have a negative experience with the people in Portugal, the Algarve was beautiful and I would love to go there, but I decided to take the money that was piling up in the bank, that has to go somewhere, which I could diversify. I could buy stocks or crypto, which to me would be gambling because I haven't taken the time to study and learn those assets. Not that they're not good asset classes to invest in. They would be bad for me because I wasn't educated. But I am educated in real estate. So instead what I did is I bought this duplex that I'm in. Moved from my fourplex to here, rented out the room that I was in. So that increased my cash flow. I will rent out the other unit, paid cash for this. The profit from that rented out room, the profit from this duplex above and beyond taxes, insurance, repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. So I am going to be paying those things, but there's still going to be a couple $1,000s a month coming in from that. That money is going to pay for my Airbnbs when I travel anywhere I want in the world. Thailand, Colombia. Goal last year was Russia, but they seem to have changed my plans on that. That's why I'm buying. It's just that was my travel money. So in 2 or 3 years, I'm going to be stuck with the same problem of every month there's $10,000 to $15,000, $20,000 ish piling up in the account that has to go somewhere. Will I buy another property? I don't want to. I might buy a boat. I might buy an RV. I don't know. But the goal isn't to growth. It was the right amount of cash flow with the least amount of units. A byproduct of that is the money keeps coming in. I agree with BiggerPockets when David Green says something that seems to irritate a bunch of people. He says, you don't retire on cash flow because it's catchy and it gets you to think, what the heck do you mean you don't retire on cash flow? It's not the goal of all this. Well, he means if you need $5,000 a month to live and you get to $5,000 a month in cash flow, you don't retire because that's not enough. But if you need 5,000 and you get to 20, now you can retire on cash flow because you're going to have that fluctuation. And that's where I was at. I'm multiples of what I need so that I'm ready for the prolonged government shutdown, pandemic, stock market crash, whatever could impact my cash flow. And it could be cut in half and I still wouldn't have to go back to work. So when it isn't cut in half, the horrible problem that I want you all to have is the money keeps coming in. That's why I bought a property. Jada, should I start looking for real estate agents once I reach 15K savings mark and start looking for potential deals? So for me, there's 6 steps to reaching financial freedom, but the 5th step is when you talk to an agent. And for me, it isn't how much money you have saved. So that's a good metric if you know how much you can save and when you're going to get there. So keep track of that. But the 5 steps, now I won't go through all of them in detail. I'm just going to list them out really quick. I did this in a video with Zuber this morning, so it's fresh in my mind. And it's part of my course that you can find at diontalk.com. First step is learn how to save. So you're there, you're learning how to save. Increase your income is the biggest step of saving. Decrease expenses with house hacking or cutting out streaming services, not having too much car, whatever it is to increase income, decrease expenses, save that difference. That's step 1. Step 2 is your credit score. You should be doing things to increase your credit score. That could be increasing your credit limits while not spending more to decrease your credit utilization amount, automating everything so you don't have payments that are missed. Whatever you can do, study old Meet Kevin and Graham Stephan videos from like 5 years ago to get all the ideas on fixing your credit score. The third thing is now, at your point, talk to a lender long before you talk to an agent. Agent's going to ask you, have you talked to a lender yet? So step 3 is talk to a lender and say, here's my job, here's what I make. They'll look at your debt to income ratio, they'll look at your work history, they'll look at your credit score, and they're going to say, here's your options. You can borrow this much. You can do this change to be able to borrow more. You can be more stable by whatever change they'll suggest in the conversation you have. Then step 4, still before talking to an agent, is that's when you pick your market and strategy. Because talking to an agent in your area might not be good if you decide that investing out of state, like Mike does, is the way you're going to go, because you want to talk to an agent in the area you're going to invest. If you're going to invest locally or at a distance, what asset class? Is it 4 units or less for fixed rate debt with residential lending? Or are you trying to get into the multifamily, storage, RV, whatever strategy is going to work for your goal? And then step 5, that's when you finally go talk to an agent. Because once you've gone through these 4 and you talk to that agent, they're actually going to be able to help you. They can set up your searches. They can tell you who you need to talk to. So good question. Saving is a step along the way, but it's not the thing that determines when to go talk to an agent. Even if you couldn't save very much and you only had $1,000, but you can go through all those other steps, you still want to do that, because sometimes you talk to a lender and they say, hey, here's this first time home buyer program with 0 money down where you're going to walk away from the closing table with a check. That doesn't take a big savings amount to get there. So great question. Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, don't talk to one agent. Never talk to just one agent. You should be, as I love to say, you should have as many agents as you have girlfriends. Minimum of 3. That's a joke. Don't cancel Dion, please.
Unless they all know about it. And it's
Don't
okay.
cancel Dion, please. Anyways, no, but the point is that no one agent is going to know every property on the market. No one agent is going to know all of the off-market properties. No one agent is going to be capable of understanding all of the different types of financing that could go into a deal. Creative financing, seller financing, subject to all these different things. No one agent is going to be able to devote the time to you when it's necessary and you have to jump on a property. Sometimes time matters, hours could matter. And somebody, as much as it sucks, they might have just had a baby, they might be on vacation, who knows? You need to be talking to a lot of different agents. I tell people, don't worry about talking to and finding the perfect agent. Go on the MLS or go on realtor.com or Zillow, whatever it is you like. When you see a house you like, call that listing agent directly. This will force you to talk to countless new agents on a weekly basis. After 2-3 weeks of calling 7 or 8 agents, you'll have quickly figured out how to tell who's good, who's not, who doesn't answer, who responds quickly, who's squared away, who understands seller financing, owner financing, creative financing, who works with investors, who doesn't, who's new, who's old. Like 2-3 weeks of calling every agent for every listing you like, and you'll quickly be able to figure out who you like working with. And then if you want to prioritize 1, 2, or 3 over the rest of them, sure, go ahead, but at least you're doing it from a position of experience and not just, I Googled good real estate agents and this person put the most marketing dollars behind their name.
Love it. Yeah, I totally agree. The talking to an agent thing, I usually, when I go into a lot more detail, it's how a home buyer is going to take up a bunch of the agent's time. It totally makes sense for that agent to sign an exclusivity agreement. But if you're just there to get the auto search set up in your market for your asset class, you should have several. Wolf Building Journey, hit the like button. That would be appreciated. It does help the channel, and I appreciate the support. Laura, hi, Hyder. Hope you had a great conference. And Bedros, howdy. Bedros, Peter Bedrosian. Cool name. Going out on top. That's the best way. I'm kind of happy that it worked out that way. I totally get why Zuber was like, yep, I've had a bad day. I'm out of here. But yeah. I see BuzzTune came in with a super chat. I appreciate that. That lets YouTube know that somebody likes the content and maybe might share it with somebody new. BuzzTune, deeply thankful for this community. And then I think I saw you had a chat above that.
Is BuzzTune coming to Vegas?
He I don't, so that's what this question is. He's in the course, so I'm going to see him this Saturday on Zoom, hopefully. I don't think I can make it, but wondering if Zuber would have paid access to the event virtually, but understand if he wants to keep it in person only. My experience with what he did at his last event is he tried to record it, and we had bad mics, so it didn't work, microphones.
No, we recorded it, and the audio sucked, and your boy spent 25 to 30 hours editing the crap out of everything so it was understandable.
So
and
it's
then
understandable,
back
right?
To Zuber.
So I think the goal this time is to do that day one.
Yeah.
Without doing that for you. So BuzzTune, if you're a one rental at a time course member, it should all be uploaded there. I know that when we have the REI vendors to wrap up that Sunday, the 4 of us together, I'm probably going to live stream it. I would suggest, Mike, you live stream it. I think Lumberjack should live stream it. I think Zuber should live stream it. All 4 channels should have it live streaming, just from different angles. But that's just that 1 hour and a half or 2 hours at the end. So yeah, if you're in the course, it'll be uploaded virtually there. I'm speaking for Mike. I could be wrong, but Zuber did that last time. So
I would. It would be foolish to not record it and then provide that for the 50,000+ subscribers that he has, given only 300 can make it there. I guarantee you, I think his price on the last one was $100 or $80 or something like that. And you could buy the whole event. So it's pretty affordable. I mean, literally you're going to get like 20 hours worth of speakers and presentations. I mean, even if he charges you like $300, I mean, it's going to come out like $15 an hour or something, you know, it's going to be worth it, but not as valuable as showing up in person. So you can actually meet with people there. Like Hyder and me will go to dinner at some point, and we will bring whoever else wants to come with, including Dion or whoever. Like, that is something that's going to happen. We will get a giant table at some restaurant somewhere. And if you're there, you get to just come for free. Like, just let's go.
Yeah. The last one, Cody and Christian, me and you, Beth, the 2 younger gentlemen that Cody and Christian work with all the time. I know
Caleb and Chuck. I
always forget their names. And other people that could have came, something came up and they didn't go. We all went out together. Could be the exact same thing. Roman here asked a question. Howdy, Roman Pravak. For the skeptical people out there, not me, I hope that you are also skeptical. Like that goes, when I talk about Crash Bros, and Mike, you've done some gurus, I think people should look at us the same way, through the same lens. When you're featured on Business Insider and they go forensic on your income, you're like, yeah, okay. So if I see somebody making content who's been in Business Insider, I know, okay, they've been vetted. People should be doing that. Our content, the Crash Bros content, whoever. So here's the question. What is in it for you? It being putting out the content. Thank you. That's a great question. I'll let you answer this, Mike, in a second. I've actually given this answer a couple of times, so I'm glad that it came up now. Maybe I need to make a standalone video on this, so that, because who's going to see it at 55 minutes into a 2-hour video, right? I was in a crappy position. Single parent, 3 kids, $89,000 in bad debt I didn't know existed till the divorce, laid off from law enforcement, making $17 an hour at the CDL school. Like, if the only thing that I think you could have added would be a major health concern. It's the only thing I was missing. I had the whole bingo sheet of everything else that could go wrong. And then within 10 years, I reach a financial situation I think most people would trade a limb for. I never have to work again. I have complete control of my schedule. I can go and do anything I want. I have the money to travel and go anywhere I want. I can help people if I want to. I can spend time by myself if I want to. Imagine the emotional roller coaster of going from that crappy position all the way to where I am now, right? That's a cool thing, but you can only do it once, right? I'm not going to give everything away and go, look, let me do this again. Let me rack up a bunch of debt, get a crappy job that doesn't pay very much, and let me take a decade and do it again. No, I'm not going to do that. But what I can do is make this content, interact with people. And I talked about this on One Rental at a Time earlier today. I can meet people like Michelle and Josh, the REI Stoners, and Dividend Dave and Zhao and Amafit, and meet people where Dividend Dave, we go to lunch. We meet one day for lunch. And then a couple months later, he's like, hey, I'm moving from this state to another state because I purchased a duplex. I'm on a house hack. Josh comes up here from California, goes to lunch with me. 6 months later, maybe a little bit longer, he goes, hey, I just closed with the agent you sent me and the lender you sent me on a duplex. We're going to house hack. Zhao, I go to lunch with him. There's kind of a language barrier. I think I'm kind of wasting my time. Super nice guy. Contacts me at the next Tacoma FI thing about like 6 months later. And he goes, hey, I've closed on my duplex. What's the next step? Like, I get to get this whole emotional roller coaster ride again, from going from starting to getting your legs under you to you acquiring cash flowing assets to reach financial freedom. That's cool. What's in it for you, Mike?
Why do I make content? That's a great question. And I've gotten more and more comments of this cheesy, sleazy salesman's just trying to rip you off. Don't buy his course. Like comments like that on my video. And I love being able to say, I have no course, no book, no masterclass, no mastermind, no group, no merchandise, nothing. I'm not trying to sell you anything. All of the information that I put online about investing in real estate is 100% free. The worst thing that will happen is you might have to watch an ad at the beginning of a YouTube video. That's it. I make content for a couple of reasons. Number one, 6 years ago, when I was recently divorced, broke, poor, didn't have custody of my son, had grown up my entire life being very, very poor, I watched a lot of videos about how to retire through real estate. And I watched a lot of guys who were very, very wealthy, like Grant Cardone and guys on BiggerPockets, and even people like Graham Stephan. I watched a lot of these guys make videos about how they did it. This is how I did it in real estate. Okay, but you're right now telling us what you did 10, maybe even 20, maybe even 30 years ago. Is that really what you did? Did it really go that smoothly? Was it really this easy to create mailbox money and passive income and all these different streams of income that you're talking about? Or are you just fluffing it up a little bit and sugarcoating the message to sell it and package it to make money off people, which in my opinion is kind of what they do. So I decided I was going to make a YouTube channel that documented from day one, starting at zero, how long it took to get to financial freedom. And what's funny is actually just writing a video today, and I don't write out a lot of videos. I do some, but I was writing a video today, which is my first 5 years of real estate coming to a close. 6 weeks from now, I hit my 5-year anniversary. And so I've documented the whole process from nothing to my first house hack duplex that I bought in the Seattle area, to my second property, which was out of state, through the seller financing and the wholesalers and the turnkey providers and everything else that I've done. It's completely documented on this YouTube channel. So it is a live video journal of what it really took in the last 5 years to become successful in real estate, which I think, no offense, Dion, I mean no offense by this to anybody, it's more relevant to listen to my story of what I've done in the last 5 years than it is to listen to Zuber, who's been investing for 20 plus years, or Matt 20 plus years, or even you for like 12 years. And that's no offense to you guys, but the circumstances you dealt with 20 plus years ago are different than what I did starting out 5 years ago. And 5-10 years from now, I'll be less relevant than the person who starts out today. That's just part of the way that the cycle works. And I wanted to make the videos because I wanted people to not only be able to see that and be inspired, but also so that I could look the haters in the face and say, you can never tell me I didn't do it like this, because here is the video proof pound sand.
I take no offense at that, and I totally get the idea. Zuber and I made a video this morning on what's shifted in the market, what we're doing differently this year versus 3 years ago. So I think yes, you want the documented proof that this is what the journey was like. But I think in 5 years, you're not going to be less relevant than the person who's starting in 5 years. Because in 5 years, you're going to be able to say, here's what worked in 2023. It doesn't work now because what worked in 2019 doesn't work now, right? In 2019, it was speed. You wanted an offer in so fast, the seller didn't realize they were going to get more offers. Can you imagine doing that now? Every seller is going to sit back and wait. They know there's no inventory. They know prices are going up. They know. So now it stays on market. That's the shift. So I don't take offense to that. I get the mentality. Frank, hey, Dion, if I can get a seller to buy down my rate by 2 points, can I buy it down even more with funds of my own? Is there a limit to how much the lender will allow the interest to be bought down? 2 limits. The first, with FHA, there are limits on what the buy down can be. Outside of FHA, it's lender specific. Like a lot of them will say 6% is the most you can buy it down, but it's almost like lender specific. So you have to ask them each time, what's my buy down options? All of them, so that I know which choice to make. And in this case, you would say seller's buying it down 2 points. What are my buy down options on top of that? So that's something that changes case by case and lender by lender. And the same lender a month later can have a different answer. So you check every time.
You got to remember the problem with diminishing marginal returns, is it gets more and more expensive to buy the rate down more and more. So, $10,000 up front might take the rate down two points, but then, another 30,000 to get it down one more point. It is a curved graph in terms of how much money you're putting into to buy that rate down, because the bank isn't just going to be like, oh yeah, just give us $30,000 so you can avoid paying $300,000 in interest. They're going to want to get that money somewhere. And the last thing you want to remember that you want to be careful of, buying a rate down, not a bad idea. I recommend people don't minimize price and instead buy a rate down. But if you front load a ton of money to buy that rate down, and then an opportunity presents itself to refinance later, you don't get that money back. And so you're going to feel like an idiot if you're like, oh, man, I worked really hard to get it down from 8 to 5. And 3 years from now, it's back in the 5s anyways. And there's a chance to refinance. You're going to be like, oh, fudge. Well, shoot, now I can refinance. Essentially, you're just going to end up in the same spot, but you spent all this money on it. So, and I know that that's kind of gaming what's going to happen long term. I'm just suggesting don't overbuy the rate down.
No, I like that way of looking at it. I've kind of done something similar. I've bought it down every time planning on long term. Have refinanced later. But one of the reasons why I don't want to pay off a mortgage and wanted to add a property, because I could have done that with the question that came up earlier, is you had this extra cash, why didn't you just pay off some debt? Well, I've already acquired that debt. I've already paid the price to buy down the rate. The tenants are already set to pay it off. So that's why buying another property won out versus paying off loans. And then there's a question that comes up. I saw it briefly from Michelle on that recasting kind of makes sense. The reason I haven't done that is when you recast, yeah, you might lower your payment a little. You might add years to the mortgage, and I don't care about having a paid off mortgage. The reason the lenders want to do it, and when you ask the question of have you reached out to a lender, you don't reach out to a bank to recast. You reach out to your current mortgage holder to recast, because it's not a refinance, it's a recast of your existing loan. So it's up to them. But they want to, because it resets the interest amortization. So as you have a mortgage over time, you pay mostly interest and a little bit of principal. And as you go, the interest goes down, the principal gets bigger till at the halfway point, it's 50-50, and then it scales again. Well, when you recast, you reset that. So it's in their interest because they get the same payment, but it's interest instead of principal, mostly. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't done it. But I haven't dismissed it as an option. I'll talk to lenders, my lenders, if I ever decide to do that, to say what would be the impact of that. Amafid, hit the like button. Again, appreciate it. That would be awesome. Julie Anderson, howdy. You were done. It's as simple as that. Same reason I retired. Yeah, I was done. Because I've had a couple times, I made a deal with the owners that the guy who replaced me, that I basically trained for 5 years to replace me. I said, if he was too stressed out and he quit, I'd come back. And it was like a 6 month to a year timeline on that. I really didn't want him to quit. I didn't want to go back because, yeah, right, I was done. Esther, howdy. Can keep working, but option work 3 days a week, have long weekend every week. Semi-retire. I like it. Maybe. Hard to do all of the traveling you might want to if you're doing 3 days a week. and you still have the boss, you still have the stress, you still have expectations. I know your husband retired last year, and I know you're in the mix of it this year. You have the choice of 3 days a week. Nobody can tell you what to do. This time freedom thing doesn't suck. All-nighter hider. I had an amazing time hanging out with Simon, the uneducated economist, all weekend, and G. Edward Griffin. Haven't heard of him yet. The author of The Creature from Jekyll Island. I've heard of that. Both these cool dudes and their sweetheart wives. Awesome. Such a blessing. I slept in my truck the night before last, saved over $100, and wasn't that uncomfortable. People look at your shared video on the feed. That's cool. Mine get ignored. I don't know that they get very many views or very many clicks. I haven't seen very many reactions to them, but it is a huge compliment to the content creator. Much appreciated. Mickle, howdy. Question. Thanks to the three amigos REI vendors, I purchased my first deal in 2022. I have one rental and getting ready to renew the annual lease. I am roughly 1.5 years out from purchasing my next deal. Did it go somewhere else?
He says, how can I speed up the next purchase? Okay.
Cool. I'm not sure where that went or how I missed it. How can I speed up the next purchase? I see it there now. I have an answer. I'll let you go first.
I mean, there's a million ways you could speed up the next purchase. I've done many, which is work a whole bunch of extra overtime so I can save money faster so that I can buy another house. You could take out a home equity line of credit on an existing property so that you can use that home equity line of credit to buy real estate. That's an advanced strategy I don't recommend for beginners. You could incorporate private money, another advanced strategy that I don't recommend for beginners. You could figure out how to get a seller finance deal with low money down. This is a strategy that, given the fact that you've got one deal, you know how to manage. This is a strategy you probably should look at. Seller financing and creative financing opportunities. If you can find somebody to buy from directly who will let you do low money down and make payments to them as if they're the bank over time, that's probably a really good option. That was my 4th rental property, and 5th rental property were seller financed, and now 10th rental property is seller financed. That's probably going to be your safest, most realistic bet if working a bunch of overtime doesn't solve the problem, and probably a home equity line of credit. You haven't owned it long enough to build the equity to actually have access to that yet. So that's probably what you want to do, seller finance.
So there's a couple ways of looking at this. One way came up in a video with me and Zuber this morning in the One Rental at a Time videos that we record every week on Tuesdays. So that should be out now, or it's coming out tomorrow. A lot of times people will say things like kind of what Mike alluded to. Of course you reached financial freedom. You started investing 10 years ago and it was different. How would you start now? So I get the question of how would you start now, right? So that's the focus. Here's what most people don't get. Yeah, my first duplex purchase was around 2013. Home prices had gone up above where they were in 2008. So I paid more than it was when it was in 2008. People told me that's stupid, it's going to crash. Took 2 years to save the down payment. Took 2 years to save the down payment for the next one, then 1.5 years for the next one. So in the first 4 years, I purchased 2 things. When people say, how can I start now? The answer is the same for me. You take 2 years to save a down payment for a house hack. You take 2 more years to save a down payment for that first duplex or small multifamily or cash flowing single family in your market. So in 4 years from today, you would have done 2 things. That's not what people want to hear. They want to hear, I've got a bunch of money. I've got a retirement account I can empty out. I've got equity that I can take out a HELOC on. I want to be financially free in 6 months. How do I do it? Right? That's not what you're asking, Michael. That wasn't what you asked at all. You're like, how do I speed it up? Which I totally get. My first answer is don't. Right? The financial firefighter emptied out all of his retirement accounts and bought like 14 rentals in 2 years. Successfully. And he knows what he's doing. But he told me in some videos, and I have played him here, he had something like 8 renovation evictions going on at the same time, and the amount of stress, investing at a distance to deal with that. If he had slowed down a little bit, it would have been a lot easier for him. Doesn't mean it would have been more successful or less successful. It just would have been easier on him. Mike's right. You can do something like a home equity line of credit, cash out refinance. I suggest a second mortgage instead of refinancing so you don't mess with your first interest rate. Seller financing is a great option. I would add, you purchased in 2022, coming on at least no matter what month you closed in, being a year since you did that. And It's what are you willing to do? If you'll add house hacking to your strategy, you take the down payment you needed from 20, 25, or 15 or 10, depending on what kind of loan you're using, down to 5% or 3.5% with FHA, but 5% with conventional now on another deal if you're going to own or occupy it. That is how you really greatly speed up the process. Yes, you can only do it once a year, but you can do it once a year. That's what I would add. So seller financing is probably your best option. If you can add house hacking, that's another great way to speed it up. But I know as much as people don't like to hear it, those first 4 years suck. For me, they did for me. For Mike, your 5 years coming up, your portfolio is the same size as mine or bigger, count-wise, unit count-wise, within 5 years that it took me 12 years to do. Right? So it can be done much faster. Cash flow is a lot more restricted when you do that. But in 5 years, your cash flow will be twice mine, 3 times mine probably. So it's a better long-term play. We have different goals. I was looking for financial freedom with the least amount of units, and you want to be literally the next Grant Cardone.
In a Lamborghini.
Just
Just parked on a beach, just riding in helicopters, hot wife, hopefully some sons. I already got one. That's the plan. That's the long-term plan. I'm kidding. Well, I mean, I'm kind of kidding, but that's not,
Awesome. Dividend Dave. Well, I'm working on shaking loose the 9 to 5. Yeah, it'll take a little bit, but you'll get there, Dave. BuzzTune related so much to Simon. Drive a beater, got a 99 Toyota and holding on to it as long as possible. I did too. It was 8 years investing before I started cycling through the cars I've always wanted. And I was like, yep, I like it. Nope, wheels are dirty. Get a new one. Alantino, freedom is everything. Howdy, Alantino. I totally agree. Time freedom, freedom from having a boss, freedom to choose to do what you want. Sometimes it is to do nothing. I think I saw a super chat come in. Dividend Dave, how do ghosts unlock doors? They use spookies. Okay. Dad joke from Dividend Dave today. Should have made you read that.
Yeah.
All-nighter header. Hey, BuzzTune. Great chatting with you earlier. Awesome, Bill. Any suggestions on trying to find assumable loans? Here's the problem with assumable loans and subject to. I don't know Pace Morby. I've never met him. I know he's really big in the BiggerPockets sphere. He's actually presenting in one of the days in the current real estate rookie boot camp that I'm the teaching assistant for. And he is killing it. He knows what he's doing, but he's been doing it for years, right? In an uptrending price market with a downtrending interest rate market, it's very easy to get banks to go, you assume the loan, it's at 4%, rates are now 3%. We are not going to call it. We're not going to touch it. But when interest rates were 3% when that person acquired or refinanced the mortgage, and now they're at 8% or 7%, and you think I'm on a subject to or wrap or assume this loan, and you don't think the lender's going to go, loans due, we'll refinance you, but here's your new interest rate and how much you need to bring to the table. Now is not the market for the person to start with that strategy. Same thing with flipping. This is not the market for somebody to start with the BRRRR method or the flipping strategy. Mike, you were 3-4 years in before you started your 2 BRRRRs, had interest rates double in the middle of that. You had your legs under you. You had your trusted boots on the ground in place, your systems in place, and it still wasn't easy. Mm-hmm. So suggestions on finding assumable loans, if it's something you've been doing and you know how it works and you have the ability to survive the bank calling the note or an exit strategy outside of the bank just saying, oh, it's okay, we don't care, and you're not going to do something like commit mortgage fraud and not tell the lender, I'm open to suggestions, Mike. How would you find assumable loans?
Yeah, VA loans are assumable. If you live near a military base, I would probably go put some of those, not the sandwich board signs, because it's probably not allowed to put them on the base, but the base will have some sort of like centrally located bulletin board that you could put up. Hey, are you getting deployed? Are you moving to a different base? You need to sell your house, or you don't want to sell it at a loss? Call me. Just essentially like a we buy houses fast cash sign, but for assumable loans at a military base, and work with a military vets who are going to be some of the few people forced to move at a time they don't want to, whereas other people may not be because they'll just walk down and stay where they're currently at. But if you're in the military, you might not have a choice. But at the end of the day, everything in life comes down to who you know. So you need to know as many people as you possibly can. Network. Every seller finance deal opportunity that I've had, creative finance deal, always comes from networking. Talk to wholesalers. Let the wholesaler know, instead of paying cash for this property, that someone might have. What if you just assumed their loan, but still paid the wholesaler his commission? Here's your 10 grand, go away, but let me just work on assuming this loan. I've had those conversations and worked down that process with those loans, and it just didn't materialize out for one reason or another. But it comes down to networking. Talk to real estate agents as well. I know my boy Angelo out in Indiana, he understands the process of seller financing and assumable loans. And so one of the things that he did that I was recommending to him, I was like, dude, look for people who purchased properties, because you can set up all these different, he's got software that you can like set up all these different filters. It's like, look for people who purchased properties between 2019 and 2022, like first half of 2022. I know they all have low interest rates. Perfect. And I know they probably have some equity. If these people have recently listed their house and it didn't sell, perfect. They don't have an agent representing them anymore. It didn't sell. Call the people who had a listing expired and they had bought their house from 2019 to 2022, because we know they've got equity. They've got a low interest rate. Their house didn't sell for whatever reason. Maybe you can pay them a little bit for their equity and take over their loans. That's where I would start.
I think if it was me, honestly, like if somebody asked me, how do you invest at a distance? I say, hey, let me tell you about my friend Mike. If you want to figure out how to find information about owners, I would reach out to Christian and Cody. They seem to be in my sphere of people, the people that are doing that the most, finding the owners of properties for developing the relationships to possibly do owner financing down the road. That's not the goal of the relationship at the start, but I think, and they have some videos where they talk about how to find the owners of LLCs and some other things that I haven't really spent a lot of time doing. That's who I would refer people to on that. All Nighter Hider said that piece of junk car video has been doing really well lately. Like the algorithm is pushing it. I have my very first video that is doing really well because I think the algorithm is pushing it, and it's a flash in the pan. It's like, it's not the hundreds of thousands of views that the Uneducated Economist gets. It's at like 17,000 views in a couple of weeks, which is my most viewed video, is like 18,000 views.
Is this a short or is this a long video?
It's a long video. Well, it's a 15-minute.
Well, is this why I retired video has 17,000 views?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. I was going to say, I was like, I didn't see some piece of crap car video.
No, that's the one on the Uneducated Economist video.
Okay. Don't worry. As always, my Dion, you can see the little red thing going across.
Mine are the same with YouTube.
There's probably a comment on there with me saying the CEO of Howdy is also the CEO of Handsome.
There's something like that on there. It is kind of cool when the algorithm pushes your videos sometimes. So Mike has this experience with some shorts recently. So the idea is you make a video and it shows you to the people who subscribe to your channel, the people who've hit the notification bell. So it tells you, hey, this thing's going right now. So there's a few hundred that seem to get that notification from this channel. And then if the click-through rate is high and people watch for a long duration, more than a couple of minutes, it shows the thumbnail to a new subgroup of people. Well, once in a while, the algorithm will say, let's show it to a bigger group. Oh, and they liked it, bigger group, right? So if it was something like, is this why I retired? I got a lot of positive feedback because I was actually making a video on what my cash flow was. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't talking anything politics or real estate, good or bad. I was just saying, this is the facts on what my cash flow looks like. But every now and then we'll make a short about real estate or financial freedom or retiring early. And shorts get viewed by entirely new audiences who are socialist, hate landlords, want everything to be free, housing is a right, want us to delete ourselves, self-delete ourselves. And we get all of those comments that come in, which honestly feed my soul. That's kind of fun. So it's good when a video hits your right group of people and grows, but sometimes it hits the wrong group of people, and that's just entertaining.
I just want to explain to people how annoying YouTube is real quick, because I'm looking at your list of videos, okay? Your videos have great looking thumbnails, the picture, right? They got the big bold print, they got some graphics, they got you looking all jacked, flexing, retire early. They've got the title headline where it's like one or two words are capitalized, everything. And then your video that's got 17,000 views, no thumbnail, freaking no capitalized words, some crappy title, just you pointing at a board, not smiling, and boom, 17,000 views. I freaking hate algorithms. I hate social media. Tired of it.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
Yeah. So you're right, because when the shorts take off It's always sends it to the anti-landlord crowd. So you can get a bunch of people who are like, oh wow, scum of the earth, parasites. Wow, this is how you should join the bourgeoisie and then get yourself axed at the next French Revolution, enjoy the guillotine. Like I get that all the time. But it's like, just put the videos in front of the Pick Your Pockets audience. All right. I just want to go and get in front of their audience. Doesn't happen.
No, it's entertaining. It's funny. So some of your most successful videos were in the beginning with your channel where you said, hey, here's this guru and their success is their course. Their success is not their investing strategy. And here's right. So if you're going to follow somebody like One Rental at a Time or Matt or you or me, the idea is if you took away YouTube and you took away any courses and you took away any affiliate links or anything like the Ridge wallet that is one of the sponsors of the channel, if you travel, good RFID protection, great gift for other people. But if you took all that away, would we be successful with just our investing in real estate? Yes. So that's who you follow. When it comes to the gurus with their only income is what they're selling. What's really frustrating, I think I sent you the picture earlier today. The guru guy going, there's a 40% real estate crash coming in a couple of weeks. 45,000 views in like 8 hours. I'm like, okay. So all we have to do is sell out, lie to everybody, say there's a crash coming, and hey, look, we can get all the views we want. Alantino, zero savings for retirement. My gosh, I totally agree. Shocks me, although there's one little caveat to this that's kind of a twist. When we hear things like 44% of Americans paid no income tax last year, part of that is, hey, there are people who make so little, they get state benefits, state medical, food stamps, subsidized child daycare, Section 8, their income, they get earned income credit back, they make more money back than they paid in taxes, so there's some people that don't pay taxes. But there's also a multi-millionaire, maybe decamillionaires, who all their income comes from real estate because of depreciation and write-offs, they're not paying any real income tax, right? So when we look at 48% of Americans between the age of 55 and 65 have zero saved for retirement. I'm not in that yet, I'm 53, but I have zero saved for retirement. I don't have a retirement account. I don't have a 401k. I don't have a Roth. I wouldn't, if I had those things, I'd still be working. I'd still have to work. So it skews the numbers when you think there are some people who fit the scary headline. Like last year, I still had a W-2 up until July. So I paid income tax, but this year I'm not going to pay any income tax. And I'm going to have 6 figures of profit. And I have zero saved for retirement. So there are some people that are in that it's not such a bad thing. Buzz Tune, howdy, Dave and Hyder. All-nighter Hyder in Vegas spent a few hundred on parking. Are you able to make it to Vegas, Buzz Tune? So many people are negative net worth. It's truly crazy. The stats that kill me, and my memory is bad, so I'm probably going to butcher this, but the average credit card length of debt is 2 years currently, and the average credit card balance is a little over $16,000. Talk about negative net worth. Credit card, 10, 20, 15% interest. Sean, howdy. I have baseboard radiators all throughout on one of my units I'm renovating, and they are an eyesore. Is it worth getting baseboard covers? Would be $700 to cover the unit. Will it impede its functionality? And does it impact your rents? Because I recently was choosing between cadet heaters and baseboard. Cadet heaters were more expensive. They heat the rooms faster, so they're better for smaller areas. Baseboard radiate heat, better for bigger areas, but the area is small. I think it's like an 800 square foot place. So I went with cadets because it doesn't take up any room from the wall sticking out. You don't have the baseboard sticking out. So I don't know about the covers. Does it affect functionality? Do you live there? Are you house hacking, renting out rooms? Because it's an eyesore to you, but do your tenants care? Is it something a tenant thinks about? Would it impact your rentability, your rent amount, your tenant turnover? That's what I would look at that through. Any thoughts on that, Mike?
I wouldn't spend money to over improve the property. Like, oh, should I redo the laminate? No, no, let it run its life cycle. If it needs to be repaired and it's more efficient or something, maybe, but yeah, unless you're going for luxury, then no.
Dan, howdy, great question here. How do I know if I'm overpaying for a property? I see some properties sold for 1/3 of today's price in the Philly area. A couple questions. 1/3 of today's price, meaning you're seeing them sell today, but how long ago did they sell for 1/3 of the price? If it was more than 2 years, yeah, almost everything has gone up that much. I know it's 19% twice here where I'm at, and we're putting Mike to sleep because it's late in the day.
I'm just old, man.
Just old, man. You don't get those middle of the night naps. When you're looking at properties and you see that one sold for 1/3 of today's price, was it a burr or a flip or something that needed a lot of work? Did they buy it to do a renovation, add square footage? There's a lot of details you might not know. And what the property sold for yesterday is absolutely irrelevant for me. If it sold for $1 yesterday, but I could buy it for $1 million today. If my yield was what I wanted at $1 million, I'd buy it. I don't care what they paid before. So it's not a metric I would look at. The price that you're looking to make the offer at, if they accept it, area average rents, take out your expenses, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy, and anything else you have. If you have property management or HOA, I don't buy an HOA and I self-manage. But if you have those, what's left is profit, times that by 12 months, divide that number by your cost to acquire, and it gives you your yield. How much is your yield and what does that compare to the area average? Those are the metrics I look at. I don't much care about when you see listed, reduced, posted, sold 3 times, the amounts from before, because you don't know what happened between then and now. You don't know if gentrification has started to happen, more businesses started going in the area, the renovation was done, square footage, all of those things. You're probably never going to know the whole story. What return will you get at your price? That tells you if it's overpriced. If the return is 0 or 1 or 2%, or if it's less than the area average return for that area, that's not a good deal. So it's a good question. But what they sold for before is not the metric I would look at. Hustle Nation, we are blessed. Next, Michelle, awesome job, Mike. About your thing, that was when you were talking about your next deal. Jonathan, I benefit when listening to good, productive thinking. Thanks. Me too. I do too. All night header made it in 4 hours. That's running at trooper speed. Awesome. Oh, you should have seen my taxi driver in Catatonia, wherever the Olympics were founded. We took a taxi, 110, 120 miles an hour. It's 150, 160 kilometers per hour in a 40 kilometer an hour zone over there, because he was getting the money to get us there and then make other runs and then pick us up in 3 hours. Best move I've ever seen. It was so awesome because this guy's like 70 and doesn't speak any English because we're in, Italy or wherever, and enough to understand the money for where we're going. But as we're going down the road, he's passing another taxi of they're doing like maybe 60 kilometers. But this old guy with his one hand on the wheel. And as we're passing the other taxi, he just kind of looks over and gives him that, "You're going too slow, douchebag" look. It was awesome. I laughed for like 20 minutes and nobody died. So it's great. Dividend Dave. Gambling is my new investing strategy. I love it. And Mike's battery is going. 15% of the time it works every time. Thanks, Dion, for your words of wisdom. It all makes total sense, Dave, as long as you don't think about it. All night, Hustle Nation, thank you. Howdy. All night hider, not to encourage anyone, but I did win $170 playing craps. Nice. Gambling is a tax on the poor, like the lottery is. North Colorado Dawn, howdy. Haven't seen you in a bit. I did a carryback for $67,500 on a duplex. I sold. Any ideas on what I should use it on? Sell, use as a down payment, etc. I think Zuber had a great answer to this in one of his group things where he had the REI Avengers all there answering questions. He had this gentleman, because I think North Colorado Dawn, you are a little bit older than me. And the goal is, what's more important to you at this stage of investing? Growth, assets, cash flow, net worth, generational wealth, or quality of life. So if you're still at the more net worth would improve your quality of life, I would use it as a down payment. If your cash flow is multiples of what you need to live, and you're my age or older, what's another term for hookers and blow that isn't hookers and blow, Mike? Something you enjoy. There you go. Yeah. Suggestions on what to do with 67,500, Mike, that won't get us canceled.
Yeah, go scuba diving in Colombia and Thailand. That's what you should do. That's what
you could spend $67,000 and that there. I would. We tried to spend money and couldn't break the $2,000 in a month mark. Like, yeah, it's crazy. On that I only saw one highway patrolman. Dividend Dave, I lost 170 playing craps. You're welcome. So the world balances out. So somebody said this earlier, and I think it was a reply to Michelle. The video came out and they said something about gambling, like investing is gambling. And Michelle said something, hopefully you weren't relating housing to gambling. My response is odds always favor the house. The more houses you buy, the more the odds are in your favor. Anna K. Good luck, Mike, on the Airbnb. Yeah, B&B is cleaning business is in disguise. The is a cleaning business in disguise. I agree. Miguel Salty, howdy. Hello, Dion. Would you ever purchase an exotic car one day, like a Porsche, Lamborghini, or Ferrari? So I had a Corvette. It's not exotic. Then I went with a Ford Raptor, which is an exotic pickup, I guess. I'm looking at the Shelby pickup, maybe. I live in Washington, so low to the ground cars are no good. You're in everybody's water spray too much. That's why one of the reasons I got rid of the Corvette. It absolutely sucks as a vehicle, is why I got rid of the Raptor. No, I don't think I would have that. I've had some midlife crises, and it wasn't vehicles that you could identify those with. What about you, Mike? You own Corvettes currently, so.
I don't want people to hear that I own a Corvette and think, oh, he wasn't disciplined financially. That's not what happened at all. I responded to a collision on the freeway where a lady who was driving a 1980s Corvette had been struck, and she was so bougie. She was like, I can never drive it again. It's been damaged. And I said, I'll buy it. And then I was able to whittle her down to 50% of its actual value by the car. And that's why I own a 1980s Corvette. Because it's a flip project that I had the stupidity of driving, and now I can't get rid of it because it's just too beautiful. And I don't need the money that badly. So anyways, will I buy an exotic car? Absolutely. Oh, so I want a Lotus Elise for sure. I've wanted one since I was a little kid, and I played Need for Speed, a Hot Pursuit on a computer. And then Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2 makes me want other cars, but I will own a Lamborghini one day. Matt and I will be Lambo bros, and we will drive around, and his license plate's going to say your rent. And I don't know what mine will say, but it'll probably be something that's not YouTube appropriate.
The one thing that I did enjoy about the Corvette, and I think mine was a 2018, and I think the horsepower is all about the same. It's a really light kind of car. The torque when you take off, it's just the way that you sit in it to where you're kind of leaned back, especially at your height, you're going to have to be leaned back. And anybody that you have in the passenger seat, so check for cops. But when you go from 0 to 100 in, a breath, your intestines are pushed up into your chest, like your whole body pushes back. It's a good experience. My skills and abilities will make it all the way to the scene of the wreck, and I'm probably going to beat the ambulance by 30 minutes. All nighter. Put some in physical gold and silver to divest your single point of failure, the dollar, not financial advice. The cool thing about the dollar failing, all-nighter hider, is when you own real estate, whatever the coin of the land is, it's going to take that to buy the real estate or to rent the real estate. Richard, you hit the nail on the head, Dion. Since I retired early, only a handful of working family has stayed in touch, and they're the ones that would come to my funeral. Yep, that's exactly the same. I think I have 2 or 3, and one of them retired too. So we're ability buddies. Michael, sorry. Howdy, Mike. Yep, I thought I had friends at work until I retired. They resented me first and ignored me. It was hard to swallow, but I lesson learned. Yeah, and there's a thing at a company, depending on the size, usually when somebody leaves, gets fired, quits, whatever. A bunch of mistakes have been happening around that position for a while. So for a period of a couple of months, all of the mistakes in that department can be blamed on the person who left. So whoever you are, when you leave, you want people to be able to blame you as their scapegoat, because it doesn't hurt you to get blamed for something. You don't work there anymore. But that way they get to go, yeah, that mistake happened. It was their fault. Won't happen again. They learn from that. They move on. That will happen when you leave, even if you're the president of the company. Adam, howdy. Y'all, I hope everyone is having a good evening. And then I see Adam. I'm looking here to make sure I'm not missing a question if one came in. I am having a good evening. Mike is having a long evening. I'm having trouble staying awake.
Oh, dude, I'm tired.
I totally get it. You can actually, anytime you want, you can dip. I appreciate you coming on here, but you can't take those midnight naps anytime you want. It must be really
If
rough.
I'm not here, then you're going to end up with like 100 live viewers. I keep the numbers down at 50, so the questions are more manageable. You're welcome.
They come in and they go, oh, they're here. I got to get out of here.
Not today.
Wealth Building Journey, a link to my course. Thank you. So anybody who is taking the course knows that for the entire month of October, we're doing Saturday Zooms that you can jump in. There is still the deal on $100 off because I don't know how to fix it. And I'll get to it. I will eventually fix it back to the regular price. All that or hider. I lost over 3,000 in Russian stocks when they were delisted. Stocks suck, not Russia. Ouch. I wonder if they get relisted at some point. I don't know how that works. But like I said, my goal was to go to Russia, so my trip was canceled. Michelle, this is the question, the recasting question. I wonder how to approach the bank or that. That's why I said you don't approach a bank, you approach whoever has your current loan. And you ask them, what are my recasting options? They want to do it. It resets their interest on their amortization schedule. Rob, what can we learn in Mike's course? Oh, wait. Mike?
I have been asked by so many people to make a course about how to get started investing at a distance, long distance like I do. For those of you who don't know, I live in Seattle. I invest in Indiana. And a lot of people are very interested and curious about what it would take to get started investing somewhere where the numbers make more sense and where the landlord-tenant laws are a little bit more favorable for the landlord. And there's a whole bunch of different reasons. The reason I have not made a course is multiple. All right. Number one, I really don't have a lot of time. I work an awful lot. Full-time single father, police officer, SWAT officer, managing my own rental properties. And now I'm millennial maid doing the turning of the Airbnb that's next door. Okay. Number two, part of me just likes being able to say, I don't have anything for sale. Like I have the opinions I have. I like being able to put what I put out there, and I'm not trying to get money from anybody. I'm just trying to genuinely help. I understand why it would be good to offer a course because there's a whole group of people out there who are first of all, it would just help me market myself to more people. And I've seen recently other content creators release courses specifically on the topics that I cover, which is long distance real estate investing. And some of these content creators, I don't really think are particularly good at what they do. I don't think that they actually have or give good insights. I think that they're kind of the fake guru mindset, where what they did was they figured out how to post on Instagram and make YouTube videos that make it look like they're very successful. And they show a lifestyle that a lot of people want. They get a lot of attention, and then they monetize that attention by promoting a $500-$600 course and selling it to hundreds and hundreds of people. Will it actually help people? Sure, some people might get some help from it, but probably a very, very, very low success rate. That's one of the chief things that I can't stand about fake gurus. It's that they don't actually care about helping you. They just want to monetize their audience. And the proof, Dion can attest to this as well. I probably get inundated with 50 direct messages a day on Instagram or Facebook from people who are saying, let me help you grow your social media presence so we can monetize your audience. Over and let me help you put a course together. Let me help you. All these things targeted at me growing the audience so that I can extract from you every single penny. In fact, I just flamed some lady in my Instagram chat who was trying to go down this, I'll give you my strategies and tips for free. And if it works, we'll monetize. Nope, don't want it, don't care, get the flip out of my face, not interested. And I was like, you don't even care about me. You're just Googling growing Instagram accounts with less than 10,000 followers that don't currently have a marketing strategist. And that, you don't care about my content, you get out of here. And so she left me on scene, no big deal. But do I want to make a course? Do I like being able to just rail against everybody? Yeah. Dion has a really nice course. So does Matt, so does Zuber. And I'm just the final Avenger. Which, speaking of which, should we buy shirts for the event? Like, you need like an Iron Man shirt. Matt has to be Thor because the lumber axe, he's got to be Thor. I mean, like, we've got Tony Stark, Iron Man, and we've got Captain America. Those are the big three. So those are you guys. And then I got to figure out.
I could totally pull off Black Widow. I don't know what you're talking about.
That was my joke. Dang it. Oh, shoot.
Like mines and all. So two things about you having a course, Mike, that might make you rethink this, because I had kind of the same opinion. I wanted to do this. I wanted to put the content out there without monetizing it, right? The two things that having a course does. One, how many videos are on your channel?
Oh, hundreds at this point.
Right. So you filter it down to the 2 or 3 hours of content that is actionable steps in a row that somebody could take. So they're not paying, because everything that's in the course, Zuber says this too, everything that's in his course is on his YouTube channel. He's got 12,000 videos, or thousands of videos. We filter it down, the work it took to put that in a chronological format of this is what would work, this is how you do it, this is the steps you do it in. That's the first thing. The second thing, when you make a YouTube video and you make a short and it's some concept on real estate or cash flow or whatever, and you see a chat come back, sometimes it's they hate landlords, right? Sometimes it's like, how do I find out more? Like, you want to kind of help that person, right? How do you think I feel when I log into Zoom and Adam or Frank and Cynthia log into Zoom? They put hundreds of dollars into learning this strategy. And then Frank is like, okay, so we just closed on these two. What's the next step? And he looks at a deal in my area that I almost got. He adds property management to it. It's not a good deal, so he passes. Like, that interaction, that level of interaction is not going to happen on the scale with us because of how many people we can interact with. So it's not like you're going to make a course and all of a sudden you're going to have 7,000 subscribers on YouTube and you have 7,000 people in the course. You're going to have 7,000 subscribers on YouTube and 20 to 50 people in your course that you interact with for the next year, where you know what they're doing, you know what stage they're on, you know how to not direct or give advice, like all those legally protected things, but to go, in that situation, have you considered these things and you care, right? Like, if somebody on YouTube comes at me and goes, hey, I tried your binder strategy and it sucked, my tenant moved out. All right, I'd be like, okay, that can happen. But if somebody in the course does that, I'm like, all right, great, let's have a call. What were your rents? How did you present it? What was the result? What was the tenant's mentality? What did you say? How did it go? Okay, that's the nuance this all the way through. I'm not going to do that with some random hater on social media that goes, I didn't like it because, or that'll never work. The person who just says it'll never work without trying it or ever owning a rental. It's a totally different level of interaction that I think you will enjoy.
There's lots of good things about it, but part of me just likes being able to rail against people and be like, yeah, I'm a little skeptical of David Blue and Brandon Strader and Coffee and Contracts and, BiggerPockets, and some of these other, any likenesses obviously are not intended. Those are just random names I was throwing out
random, there. Totally random.
But I just kind of like going after them a little bit because that's what I do. But you're right. Yeah. Would I help people? Sure. But I'm just going to hide behind I'm too busy for as long as I want. Just like you ain't never refinanced anything, Dion. You ain't never refinanced, cash out refinanced a loan. And when Zuber and Lumberjack tried to bully you into it, you stood there resolute on your principles.
Because I'm lazy and I wanted to retire. And if I pulled out money, I'd still be working. Wichita Zeb. Howdy. This is my first Dion Talks live stream. Thanks for doing this. I'm really connecting with what you have to say. Thank you. And I appreciate the questions that come in, because it's kind of not easy, but to script a video or to do a live stream, a short like 5 or 10 on a topic, is usually kind of guesswork. Here's what I think I would want to know if I was starting to invest. So these questions that come in usually tell me, oh, I've seen that question a bunch of times, so I'm going to make a video on that. I'm making a video later this week because I was watching content and a question came in. Now I watch Ken McElroy and Danielle, his wife. He's syndications, large apartment complexes, different world of investing than me. So I respect his experience. But Danielle has, 3, maybe 4 rentals now, and is the buy and hold residential financial freedom with the least amount of units. Like, I totally kind of really like watching their interaction. But a question came up on a video I was watching this morning. And their answer, like I really like their content, but their answer was all over the place, not really articulated and wrong, right? I don't want to say they were wrong, but that answer was wrong. I'm making a video because somebody asked a question. That means other people are thinking the same thing. So I'm actually looking forward to that one. Dion, Randy, howdy, Randy. Love your method working to rent my first duplex. Awesome. Congratulations. Let me know how it goes. I put my email in the chat earlier. I'll put it again. Email me some details. I'm always curious to hear how it's going. All-nighter hider. I love being wrong. What was that? I must have missed something. BuzzTune, deeply I missed a super chat. Somebody should have pointed that out, Mike.
Oh, sorry about that. Was that the Adam Calhoun one?
No, it was BuzzTunes. Deeply thankful for this community. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I thought you did see that one.
Did I see that one?
I swear
I
you
must have.
that one.
I think I must have. Yeah. There we go. Randy, pushing my son to buy a duplex. You and me both. Both. My son, who would never make it this far into one of my videos, he can watch my short content. A couple of years ago, he had $54,000 in student loan debt, got married to a girl who's just really organized, good with money. The two of them worked together, completely obliterated the debt within 1 year, paid off the $54,000 in student loans, saved up a pretty good down payment on their first duplex, went to Disneyland and Disney World, and then bought a Subaru, and now they're planning a Japan, Disney World, something, wherever it's at next. So every time they get a down payment saved up, it's the next trip. They're young, I get it. And I didn't start until I was 40, so I have no room to talk. But Randy, I'm with you. I'd really like them to get started on the something to consider. Let's say, Randy, let's say you buy 3 or 4 or 5 rentals and you have a pretty good portfolio. And then unfortunately, eventually, we're all going to pass. If your kids don't have rentals, it pretty much goes to probate, pretty much going to get sold because they don't have the ability to take over the loans. But if they have rentals and they have rental income on tax returns and they inherit a portfolio, your rental income in that portfolio can be considered into their debt to income ratio to take over those loans. And it might be an easier transition. So even if they just got a couple of rentals, I'm really pushing for my kids to do that. Jada, I will be using your strategy for investing in real estate. I'll be looking to get a duplex as my first investment and house hack, rinse and repeat. I'm getting a decent amount of savings. And my next move is to go to a lender for pre-approval and then go to a real estate agent. Thank you, Dion and Mike, for your awesome input. That is exactly how it starts. Awesome. Love it. Again, my email's in the chat. Let me know how it's going. BuzzTune, when you visit your market out of state, this is a question for you, Mike. When you visit your market out of state, how would you schedule your visit there with realtor, property management?
Yeah, I mean, so what I typically do when I go to visit the market, I make sure that I touch base with my real estate agent and I make sure that I touch base with my property manager. I don't typically tell my property manager that I'm going ahead of time because I want to go out there and see the properties untouched. I want them to not know I'm coming and go fix any problems. So I want to go drive by them myself. Once I've driven by, then I might send a text like, hey, can we go out? I'm in town. You want to get together? Let's chat. And we always have a good experience. My real estate agent, I'll let him know ahead of time. We hang out, we talk. I take my contractor out to dinner. Every time I'm like, hey, Tony, where do you want to go? And he's like, pick someplace nice. He always picks some like cheap spot. I'm like, all right, that's where you want to go. That's fine. I'm paying for it, but whatever. I see Dominic Casteros. I network with other investors in the area. Both times I've gone. One time Dion was with me. We set up a real estate investing meetup kind of like last minute. And we were able to get like 8 people. Adam Calhoun was one of them, who like showed up last minute. Then the next time that I went out there, this time I was like, all right, I'm blasting it out. So I set up a real estate investing meetup way ahead of time. And we got a lot more people that time. It was really cool. We had a huge meetup at a cigar lounge, like 30 people were there. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, when you go, you should absolutely be trying to talk to people and see some properties, see some projects, walk some properties if you can. Those are all definitely things that you should do. And then one final thing that I would maybe add, I tell people all the time that they need to not underestimate the power of virtual networking. You may not feel like oh, I could be a YouTube star. Dude, I don't feel like I could be a YouTube star. If you go watch my first video I ever made, it is the most cringeworthy, low resolution, poor sound quality garbage you've ever seen. I don't even want people to watch it unless it's just to prove that I really did make videos before I got successful. But what I didn't anticipate happening was, as I started making videos about Gary, Indiana, I'm the only guy who makes videos about investing in Gary, Indiana. So guess what? I own all of the search phrases and all of the YouTube searches and all of the Google searches for Gary, Indiana. The amount of deals and opportunities that come my way because I'm the only dude out there talking about it in any regular consistency is unparalleled. So my recommendation to you is, don't be like, I want to make a YouTube channel about how to retire with real estate. Dude, you got competition with 10 million people. But if you make a YouTube video about how to invest in Grand Forks, North Dakota, no one else is doing it. And very quickly, within a few months, you'll own all of the internet real estate for those search phrases, and you'll get opportunities because of it. So, and that will allow you to then potentially set meetups. Like when I set up a local meetup to go to Indiana, I post it on Instagram, talk about it on YouTube, and I can get 50 people to turn up because they watch my stuff. And that's powerful because you can have a networking opportunity there that you wouldn't have otherwise had. And it's all for free. It just takes your time and uploading videos.
Yeah, it's all for free except for that time thing. I've had a few people reach out and go, hey, I should start a YouTube channel. Yes, why? Right. So if your goal is to make money, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. I crossed 1 million views the other day and somebody's like, oh, you must make so much money. And I'm like, so it was I want to say it was less than a year to get monetized. I should do the math on the whiteboard like I did with rentals and see what I've been paid from YouTube. I don't think anybody would watch it. I'd probably just do it for myself. It's probably 1/10 of minimum wage. I think if you averaged out the actual time put into videos versus the money that you make. Wealth building journey. We'll probably talk about this during the course Zoom on Saturday, if you can make it. The property I was looking at needed a solid 100 grand worth of repairs. I learned what a rough in is. And oh, by the way, the foundation was cracking all the way around the property. It's a hot mess. So yeah, I don't remember you saying rough in. We would have went over that together. I've basically got my other unit to the rough in stage right now, which means there's electric, but no outlets, no lights. There's plumbing, but no toilets, no sinks. There's no flooring yet. There's no drywall yet, right? So there's like, rough in means you said 100 grand. I think mine's got like 20 left to spend of other things. I've already paid for some of the things, but yeah, invest, spend. So maybe that's not the deal. We're going to be wrapping up here in a few minutes. Alantino says, Mike has a point with recent 5-year example. Totally agree. Thank God for honest men like him. It's awesome. I personally relate to both of you guys because there are other men out there 30, 40, 50 years older, life divorce, kick them in the gut and have to start from zero. Guys and girls, you start from zero. And what's really weird, don't take this the wrong way if you're in a relationship, but I've never met anybody yet whose life wasn't exponentially better because of the divorce. Remember, a divorce doesn't mean a good marriage is ending. It means a bad one is. Wealth building journey. It's a graph of a logarithmic curve, but it's easier to say law of diminishing returns. Yes, which every gamer knows when it comes to tanking, that you have diminishing returns. All night hider. That was a remarkably amazing answer for the. What's that?
Or getting EXP from a kill. Just get smaller and smaller.
Just get smaller and smaller. That was a remarkably amazing answer to the rate buy down. All three of you guys added some excellent wisdom. That includes you, wealth building journey. You share, that's the thing. Let's see if there's any questions here. Is there any you want to get to, Mike?
Are we wrapping up?
In a few minutes, yeah.
Okay, yeah. There was 2 things that I wanted to get to. Number one, somebody down in the bottom was talking about Chandler David Smith's wife passing away. Chandler David Smith is a great YouTuber. He was on a trajectory to blow up big time, and he just put it all on halt like a year plus ago because his wife had an extremely rare cancer, and they fought very, very, very hard. And unfortunately, she lost her life. I didn't know her personally. Chandler and I have chatted over the years. He asked me to review his course at one point. He's a good dude. He's a great guy. my heart goes out to him. Single father with 2 very young kids, did not plan to have what happened to him happen to him. If you don't follow him, you should. If you don't follow him on Instagram, you should. Chandler David Smith, he is a real one for sure. So, and sorry for your wife, man. Seriously.
And I saw that comment there. I can't imagine what he's going through. Yeah, it's a terrible situation all the way around. I agree with you though, when it comes to the real estate stuff. He's somebody I followed, watched, interacted with, asked questions of. Never saw anything in what he was doing that I didn't want to emulate. So hoping that his life, can get back on track. Like I said, I can't even imagine. CJ says, popping on to say hi, but accountability call with some of the guys from Landlord's Mastermind. See you guys in Vegas. Awesome. We'll see you there. Alyssa, howdy. Ice Transport says you are the best. I agree, Mike. You are the best. John Williams.
That was for you.
Interesting conversation tonight on relevancy of channels. I often think of missing FI Avenger is the person on 2 to 4 year sucky time. I would say Mike's now well beyond that point. I think you are just passing hitting the income snowball stabilization.
Yeah.
It's a great stage to hit.
Technically, I'm still in year 4 right now. I'm wrapping it up. But here's the interesting thing. This is a paradox or catch-22, whatever it is. Nobody wants to listen to somebody who's at 2 to 4 years. Like some of my very first videos, I even openly admit, like, I'm not giving advice because I'm not in a position yet to give advice. And I know no one's going to listen to my videos until 10, 15 years from now. I can say I'm worth $50 million and have 300 rental properties. And now people will want to listen to you. So you're right. The missing YouTuber when it comes to real estate information are the people who are at that 2 to 4 year mark. But the problem is a lot of the times they're not qualified yet to give advice. Or they might not be as successful, or nobody just cares because it's not that impressive to have 2 to 4 units when compared to people like Dion and Lumberjack and Zuber. So you're right. They're out there right here, but unfortunately no one cares until you get a little bit more popular, a little bit more successful.
And I see we have a stock guy blocked now.
I thought that was maybe just spam.
That's what I figured. It's a spam, but they have to be a member for 5 minutes. So John Williams, so when there's a prickly short from Dion, he's after the laws. Absolutely. Life is about that. Okay, I'm looking through for any of the last questions before we wrap up. All-nighter hider, what sucks about the Crash Bros is they help to perpetuate a self-fulfilling prophecy. Not that they are the catalyst, but that they aren't there a tailwind. Yeah, that makes sense. Laura, recasting, can you elaborate on that? What are the benefits? First time I heard the term. So sometimes people will have a mortgage and you can take like $20,000, pay down the loan amount, and then say, I want to recast the loan. So they take that new amount that you owe, recast the loan so your payments can be less because you've chunked it down. Sometimes they will take, you have 22 years left on the mortgage, they'll redo it to 30 years, recast the loan over those 30, so keep the same interest rate, the same current amount of debt of whatever it is, unless you're paying it down. Banks like to do it because it resets the interest amortization, so it makes them more money. Maybe me and Mike will do some actual research so that I'm accurate because I haven't done it, and then make a video on here's what recasting is. Not something I've really looked into. I like the idea. I don't want to focus to pay off debt, but I like the idea of tenants paying off debt over time. Right now it's like it's $3,700 a month that's getting paid off of mortgages without me having to do anything. Okay.
There was a question that just came in from Daniel Rodriguez. He says, hey, Dion, I've been looking and putting in offers for almost a year. I finally found a duplex that would cash flow, but not the best area. It's a CD area. Would you go for it if the numbers worked? Daniel, Dion's current house hack was the victim of a drive-by shooting. Dion loves CD areas.
I love C areas, not D areas. The drive-by
drive-by shooting, Dion. The homeless people at that 7-Eleven. Come on.
It wasn't through the peephole. It was through the side of the wall. I like C areas, not D areas. I want to be able to go there safely to collect rent, send a handyman, not feel unsafe for them, send a property manager, whatever that is. I think with the D area, not only is safety the concern, but turnover is going to be more. C, I prefer C because in economically bad times, A and B renters can move to C to save money. Not too many people from A, B, or C move to D to save money. They'll generally take in a roommate or something like that to stay in the C. So there's more demand on Cs during bad times. So it depends on how close to the D neighborhood that it is. The best yields are often in the war zone areas and not worth pursuing, even if it's 2 or 3 times what I would get in my C areas. I don't want B or A for the same reasons. So here's the quick thing on rents. Since we've started tracking the data in 1940, rents have never once gone down in a 5-year period, right? Not market-wide. Some local areas have, but not market-wide. Except in 2009, Class A rentals, those luxury rentals, dipped so much that it looked like all rentals went down, even though B and C rentals increased because of the increased demand from everybody who went through foreclosures. I want stability. That comes from being in that C market. So if it's a C, yes. D, no. Frank, a lot of people have a hard time paying for real estate education. For us, it helped speed up our second journey. We've invested in Dion's and Matt's and Zuber's courses. Millie and Mike, we're patiently waiting. See, that's Frank and
Thanks,
Cynthia.
Frank.
There you go. Yeah. Daniel Rodriguez, that's the one. Yep. Okay, we'll probably be wrapping up there. Yeah, no McKinley Avenue for me or 28th Avenue. You got to know where your bad areas are and where to avoid. And remember, if you call an out-of-state area when you don't have those trusted boots on the ground and you tell an agent, I have San Francisco or San Diego money and I want to invest in that town in the Midwest because I hear there's great deals, they're going to show you a mathematically impressive deal that you can't believe exists. It's so good. It's so good that all the local investors passed on it because they're not stupid. Thank you all very much for hanging out with us on a Tuesday. I might try to talk Mike into doing something Friday morning unless he works, but we'll see.
I'm working.
You're working. All right. How many sick days do you have?
I pride myself. I never take sick days.
Nice. That means you have a lot of them. Until our next video, thanks for coming to our Dion and Mike talk. And we should be off of there.